I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I'd have given him a new smile line with my fist. There we were, in a restaurant I didn't even want to be at, candles flickering, wine glasses sweating, the whole place smelling like truffle oil and poor decisions. Ashley, my wife, had invited me for what she called a serious talk. Naturally, I thought she meant counseling, maybe a reset button. What she really meant was an ambush. Sitting across from me was Chase Donovan, the guy she swore was just a mentor from work. The kind of man who wore a black shirt 2 sizes too small, probably to remind the world that he owned a gym membership. Ashley sat beside him, laughing way too hard at his dumb joke about traffic lights. Her hand brushed his arm, casual, like it wasn't my wife touching another man in front of me. "Logan," she said sweetly, motioning for me to sit. "This is Chase. You've heard me mention him." Yeah, I'd heard. Too often. Chase leaned in, locking eyes with me like we were two cowboys about to duel over the last saloon in town. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. "I'll make this simple, Logan. You've got two options. Leave quietly, or face me like a man." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how ridiculous it was. I glanced at Ashley. No flinch, no shame. Just that smug little smile that said this is already decided. I smiled back at him. "You want your teeth whole or in pieces?" The way his smirk faltered for half a second, that was worth the price of dinner. Ashley's hand shot out. "Logan, stop. You're embarrassing me." Embarrassing her. That was rich. I didn't hit him. Not then. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and walked out into the cool night air. My heart wasn't broken, it was waking up. Because in that moment, I knew something she didn't. This wasn't the end of my story. This was the beginning of hers. And trust me, she wasn't going to like the next chapters that I didn't go home that night. Instead, I parked 2 blocks away from our house, sat in my truck, and thought about how I'd been duped into financing a love story I wasn't even starring in. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. "You didn't have to do that." I almost laughed out loud. Didn't have to do what, Ashley? Notice? I didn't reply. Instead, I called my buddy Aaron. He answered on the second ring. "Logan, you sound like a man sitting in a truck debating whether to drive into Mexico." "Close. Replace Mexico with a ditch and you're about right." "What happened?" "She brought me to dinner. With him. Chase Donovan." There was silence on the line. Then Aaron muttered, "The guy with the jawline?" "Yeah, apparently it comes with an ego subscription too." "Man, I'm sorry. Don't be." I think she expected me to crawl. The next morning, I walked into the house. It smelled faintly of her perfume mixed with cologne that wasn't mine. Subtle, but I noticed things. Always have. She was in the kitchen, hair perfectly curled, flipping pancakes like she hadn't just detonated a grenade in our marriage. "You left me there," she said coldly. "You left me years ago." I replied, pouring myself coffee. "Last night was just the announcement." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't be dramatic." I sipped my coffee, leaned on the counter, and said, "I'm not being dramatic, Ashley. I'm being observant. There's a difference." That's when I noticed the envelope on the counter. Gold trim, heavy paper, an invitation. I slid it toward me and read the embossed letters. Donovan and Keller, grand opening. A business launch. Chase's name right next to hers. I raised an eyebrow. "So, you've been busy." She snatched the envelope from me. "It's not what it looks like." I smiled. "Ashley, you've got to stop saying that. It's always exactly what it looks like." I walked upstairs, not to argue, but to start packing a suitcase. Not because I was leaving. Oh no. That's what she wanted. I packed because I had a plan. One step ahead, always that I didn't slam doors. Didn't yell. Didn't give her the show she wanted. That's the thing about Ashley. She thrived on noise. Tension. Drama. So I gave her the one thing she couldn't handle. Silence. While she thought I was sulking, I was watching. First move. I switched our joint bank account alerts to forward to my phone. Every latte, every boutique splurge, every Uber ride. It all pinged me before she even had time to stash the receipt. Second move. I contacted a buddy of mine from college who owed me a favor. He ran a small IT firm. I asked him to set up a cloud folder, something Ashley couldn't trace, and help me quietly back up all her messages from her laptop. He didn't ask why. The silence on the phone told me he already guessed. Third move. I planted a small, motion-sensitive camera in the living room, hidden in a decorative photo frame. I told myself it was for security. But really? It was for clarity. By Thursday, I had enough data to choke a courtroom. At 11:43 p.m., Ashley tiptoed into the living room, phone pressed to her ear. I watched the footage the next morning with a cup of coffee in hand. Her voice was low, careful. "I can't stay long, Chase. He's starting to notice." "No, don't worry. He's too comfortable to do anything about it." She laughed softly. That same fake, sharp laugh she hadn't used with me in months. Too comfortable. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a messy argument she could twist into a sob story for her friends. Instead, I was going to build something. Slowly, quietly. Revenge isn't loud. It's patient. The next day at breakfast, she looked at me over her green smoothie and said, "You're awfully quiet lately. Is everything okay?" I smiled. "Perfect, actually." She tilted her head, suspicious. "Perfect. Yep. Never better." And she bought it. She had no idea I was already 3 steps ahead. If there's one thing I've learned about people like Ashley, it's this. Give them enough rope, and they'll build their own noose. The trick is standing back and letting them think it was their idea all along. So that's exactly what I did. The week after the Minter dinner, I played my part flawlessly. I woke up at my usual time, made my coffee, left for work with a smile, and came home like nothing was wrong. I even laughed at her half-hearted jokes and let her vent about the stresses of launching a business. She mistook my calm for cluelessness. And God, did she love it. I'd watch her in the evenings, scrolling through her phone, lips twitching into a smirk she didn't even bother to hide anymore. She thought I was too busy nursing my ego to notice. But I wasn't hurt anymore. Not really. I was studying her like a scientist observing a lab rat. One night, as she was brushing her hair in the mirror, I leaned against the doorframe. "You seem happier lately," I said casually. Her eyes met mine in the reflection, cautious at first, then softening into a grin. "Maybe I am." I tilted my head. "That Chase guy treating you well?" She froze, just for a split second. Then she laughed, too quickly. "Logan, you're paranoid." I smirked. "Just checking." And that was it. I didn't press, didn't accuse. Just left her with the knowledge that I knew more than I was letting on. That seed of doubt would grow all on its own. During the day, I kept busy. But every evening, I reviewed the quiet little archive I'd started building. Bank statements, texts, camera footage. Piece by piece, her world came into focus. Tuesday, she ordered 2 glasses of Merlot at a bar she'd never mentioned. One had lipstick, not hers. Friday, she booked a spa appointment. I tracked the Uber. The drop-off was a downtown loft. Guess whose address? Chase Donovan. Sunday, she spent $213 at a boutique, the same one she swore was too expensive. 2 days later, Chase was wearing a new watch in his Instagram post. Guess who paid for it? By the end of the month, I could have written a documentary titled The Secret Life of Ashley Keller. But instead of blowing it all up, I stayed patient. Because the thing about a liar is, they get greedy. And when they get greedy, they slip. It happened on a Wednesday. I got home early, just past 5. Her car was already in the driveway, which was unusual. Ashley usually stayed at the office until 7. I walked in quietly and heard laughter from upstairs. Not the kind of laughter you share with your husband after a long day. I took a breath, walked to the bottom of the stairs, and called out, "Ash." Silence. Then hurried footsteps. She appeared at the top of the stairs, hair slightly tousled, face flushed. "You're home early," she chirped. "Yeah," I said, setting my briefcase down. "Wanted to surprise you." Her smile twitched. "Oh, that's sweet." Behind her, I caught the faintest movement. A shadow, retreating into the guest room. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask. Instead, I gave her the calmest smile I could muster. "Why don't you order takeout tonight? I'll go for a walk." Relief flashed across her face. "That sounds great." And just like that, I stepped outside, giving her the space she thought she needed. But as I walked down the block, I pulled up the camera feed on my phone. The frame in the living room captured everything. Chase slipping out 10 minutes later, shirt untucked, sneakers in hand. I watched him leave my house like a thief who thought he'd gotten away with it. The next morning, Ashley acted like nothing happened. She hummed while making her smoothie, asked about my day, even kissed my cheek before leaving for work. I kissed her back, because by then, I wasn't angry. I was excited. That night, Aaron came over. We sat in the garage, beers in hand, door cracked just enough to let the autumn air roll in. "You sure you don't want to just confront her?" he asked. I shook my head. Confrontation gives her power. She'll cry, play the victim, twist the story. No, Aaron. I want something she can't spin. He raised an eyebrow. Which is? I grinned. The truth. Served cold. Aaron chuckled. You sound like you're planning a heist. In a way, I said, taking a sip. I am. But the prize isn't money. It's dignity. And she doesn't even know I already took it back. The following week, Ashley slipped again. She forgot to clear her Uber history on the shared iPad. A ride request at 1:12 a.m. from a bar downtown. Drop off? Chase's building. She returned at 3:44. The next morning, she sat across from me at breakfast, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. You're awfully quiet lately, she said, stirring her coffee. Am I? I asked, glancing up from my paper. Yeah, almost like you don't care anymore. I smiled faintly. Maybe I don't. Her grin faltered. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. Here's the funny thing about betrayal. The cheater always thinks they're the mastermind. But in reality, they're just actors in a play you've been quietly directing. Ashley thought she had me fooled, cornered, broken. But in truth, she was performing exactly the way I needed her to. Collecting evidence for me. Making herself comfortable on a stage where the curtain was about to drop. I wasn't just one step ahead. I was 10. And she had no idea the ending was already written. Ashley always had a gift for performance. She could walk into a room full of strangers, flash that practiced smile, and by dessert have half the room convinced she was their new best friend. But what she never understood was this. Performers get tired. And when they get tired, they slip. The slip came sooner than I expected. It was a Saturday morning, the kind where the air smelled like damp leaves and the neighborhood kids were out terrorizing the sidewalks with scooters. Ashley was in the kitchen, phone in hand, laughing too loudly at something I couldn't hear. I poured myself a cup of coffee and leaned against the counter. Who's that? She didn't look up. Work. On a Saturday? MHM. Big launch coming. Lots of details. I nodded, sipping slow. Funny. Your work laughs sound a lot like your Chase laughs. She froze. Just for a second. But that was all I needed. You're imagining things, she said quickly, turning her back to me. I smiled into my coffee. Maybe. That afternoon, I made myself scarce. Drove around aimlessly, grabbed a burger at a diner, even stopped at Home Depot just to wander the aisles like a man with a project. But all the while I was thinking, calculating. When I got home, Ashley was gone. No note, no text, just gone. I didn't panic. I didn't even care. I went straight to the living room, opened my hidden folder, and there it was, 3:27 p.m., Chase walking through my front door like he owned the place. They didn't notice the camera, of course. They never do. Later that night, Ashley came home smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. She kissed me on the cheek, light, almost apologetic. Sorry I was gone so long. Traffic was a nightmare. I smiled. No worries. Dinner's in the fridge. She blinked. You cooked. Of course. Figured you'd be hungry. And that was the moment I saw it. Guilt, raw and unfiltered, flash across her face. Not enough to make her confess, but enough to tell me the walls were starting to close in. The following week, the business launch finally happened. Some downtown venue with string lights, hors d'oeuvres on sticks, and way too much cheap champagne. Ashley insisted I come, practically begged. Logan, it's important. People will be asking about us. Us, I said, raising an eyebrow. Yes, you know appearances. I smiled. So I'm your prop for the night. She rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. I shrugged. Fine, I'll go. Walking into that event felt like stepping onto a stage I didn't audition for. Chase was there, of course, looking smug in a suit that probably cost more than my first car. The second he saw me, his grin tightened. Ashley clung to his arm just a little too long before letting go. Logan, he said, voice oozing confidence. Glad you could make it. Chase, I replied, shaking his hand firmly enough that his smile faltered. Ashley stepped between us, laugh high-pitched. Let's not make this awkward, okay? I leaned down just enough for only her to hear. Oh, sweetheart, awkward hasn't even started yet. The night dragged on with speeches, fake laughter, and endless small talk. I played the role perfectly, smiling when expected, nodding at strangers, even raising a glass during Chase's big announcement. But I noticed everything. How Ashley's hand lingered on his back when she thought no one was looking. How she leaned in too close when he whispered something in her ear. How her smile dropped every time she caught me watching. At one point, Aaron texted me, "How's the circus?" I replied, "Every clown's in attendance." The real show came near the end of the night. I stepped outside for some air and found Ashley already there, phone pressed to her ear. "No, he doesn't suspect a thing," she whispered. Then she saw me. Her face drained of color. "Oh, uh, just checking on a client," she stammered, shoving the phone into her purse. I didn't say a word, just smiled, kissed her on the forehead, and whispered, "Careful, Ash. You don't want to drop the mask." She didn't sleep well that night, tossed and turned, muttering under her breath. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, already shaping the ending she'd never see coming. The next morning, she was bright and bubbly again, pretending nothing had happened. "Want pancakes?" she chirped, like she hadn't been caught lying through her teeth 12 hours earlier. "Sure," I said, sliding into my chair. "Let's celebrate." "Celebrate what?" "New beginnings," I replied. Her smile wavered. "What kind of new beginnings?" I just grinned. "The best kind. You'll see." Here's the thing about Ashley. She thought she was in control, that I was just some dull husband, too busy paying the bills to notice the strings she was pulling. But what she didn't know was that I'd already started pulling my own. The house. Mine. The accounts. Already split, though she didn't know it yet. The evidence. Lined up neatly in a folder labeled for later. I wasn't waiting for her to trip anymore. I was building the trap. And soon, I'd let her walk right into it. The thing about traps is they only work if the target feels safe enough to step right into them. So I made sure Ashley felt invincible. I became the perfect husband again, quiet, agreeable, even affectionate when she reached for me. I watched her guard drop, inch by inch, as she convinced herself that maybe I'd accepted her new business partner as just that. And she was right about one thing. I had accepted it, just not in the way she thought. The first real test came on a Thursday. Ashley waltzed into the kitchen, her perfume hitting the air a full second before she did. She was glowing, the kind of glow you don't get from 8 hours in an office. "I'm going to be late tonight," she said casually, sipping her smoothie. "Big meeting?" I asked, not looking up from the paper. "MHM, lots of details to finalize." "Of course," I said. "Good luck." She blinked, clearly thrown off by my easy tone. "Thanks," she replied, waiting for me to ask more. But I didn't. I just turned the page and sipped my coffee. The camera feed later that night confirmed what I already knew. No boardroom, no meeting, just Chase's loft, lights low, wine glasses out. And the best part? She used the credit card still tied to our joint account. I smiled as the receipt hit my inbox. Dinner for two, $97 and change. Paid for by me. I couldn't have scripted it better. The next morning, I slid the receipt across the table during breakfast. "What's this?" she asked, glancing at the paper. "Thought you might want to expense it," I said lightly. Her eyes darted up. "Expense what?" "Dinner. Looked like a nice place." She froze. I let the silence stretch, sipping my coffee like it was the most normal conversation in the world. Finally, she laughed. "Too sharp. Too forced. You're imagining things." I smiled. "Maybe." Then I stood up, kissed her cheek, and left for work. She didn't eat another bite. By the weekend, I could tell she was spiraling. She kept glancing at me like she expected me to explode, to demand answers, to rage. But I didn't. I just stayed calm, steady, unbothered. That Saturday night, she tried again. "Logan," she said softly as we sat on the couch, "are you happy?" I glanced at her. "Never better." She frowned. "Really? Really?" I said, smiling faintly. "Why do you ask?" "I don't know. You've just been different lately." I chuckled. Different can be good. She stared at me, searching for cracks in my calm. But she found none. Because I wasn't bluffing anymore. I wasn't broken. I was in control. The real fun started on Monday. While she was at work, I visited our bank. Quietly shifted a large portion of the savings into an account in my name only. Then I called the mortgage company, making sure her name was nowhere near the refinance papers I'd set in motion. By the time she came home, humming and smiling like she'd spent the day doing anything but spreadsheets, I was 3 moves ahead. "Good day?" I asked. "The best," she replied, kissing my cheek. I smiled. "Glad to hear it." What I didn't say, "It'll be your last good day for a while." That week, I also started planting seeds outside the house. Aaron introduced me to a mutual acquaintance, a lawyer who specialized in divorce cases. Not the cheap, cut-and-dry kind, either. The kind who treated the courtroom like a stage and never lost an audience. We met in a small office, just me and him. "So," he said, steepling his fingers, "you want the upper hand." I nodded. "I don't just want it. I need it." He smiled. "Then let's make sure when this curtain falls, she's standing on nothing." I left his office with a folder full of options, each one sharper than the last. And for the first time in months, I felt lighter. Ashley's next mistake was underestimating me. On Wednesday night, she came home late, smelling faintly of cologne again. She slid into bed quietly, probably thinking I was asleep. But I wasn't. As she settled under the covers, I whispered, "Good night, Ash." She jumped. "Oh, you're awake." "Always," I said softly. She didn't say another word. The following Saturday, I played my best card yet. "Hey," I said casually over breakfast. "Want to go to that new Italian place tonight?" My treat. Her fork paused midair. Sure." "Great," I said, smiling. I already made reservations. What she didn't know was that I'd called ahead, requested a table in the back, and asked the manager for a little cooperation. That evening, Ashley dressed to kill, red dress, heels, the whole show. She thought she was walking into a romantic date night. A reconciliation. Instead, she walked straight into Chase. He was there with a different woman. Younger, prettier, laughing like Ashley never existed. The look on her face when she spotted them? Priceless. She froze, eyes wide, hand clutching her wine glass like it was a lifeline. "Logan," she whispered. I leaned in, smiling. "Careful, sweetheart. Don't spill." She didn't speak for the rest of the meal. Back at home, she finally snapped. "You planned that, didn't you?" I shrugged. "Plan what? You knew he'd be there." "Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't." She glared, chest heaving. "You're trying to make me look stupid." I sipped my drink calmly. "Ashley, you don't need my help for that." She gasped like I'd slapped her. But I didn't raise my voice. Didn't move a muscle. I just watched as the cracks spread across the mask she'd worn so proudly for months. That was the moment she realized the game had changed. And she wasn't winning anymore. After the Italian restaurant incident, Ashley stopped humming. That might not sound like much, but trust me, it was seismic. My wife always hummed when she thought she was untouchable. That hum was her victory anthem. And now? Silence. She started checking my phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Little did she know, I left it unlocked on purpose. Nothing on it except a few boring texts from Aaron and work emails about project budgets. She looked disappointed, like she wanted a bombshell. Meanwhile, I had all the bombs I needed sitting neatly in a folder labeled vacation plans on my laptop. Screenshots of texts, bank statements, camera footage, enough to sink her reputation in a heartbeat. One evening, she finally cracked. "Logan," she said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Are we okay?" I looked up from my book, calm as ever. "Better than ever." She frowned. "You don't seem angry." "I'm not," I said, closing the book. "Why would I be?" She didn't have an answer. Because deep down, she knew. By now, Chase had started to ghost her. I could tell from the frantic way she typed on her phone, the way she'd force a laugh when I walked into the room. I knew I'd broken the golden triangle. Her, me, and him. And the beauty was, I didn't have to say a single word to do it. That Friday, Aaron called. "You're ready," he said. "Almost," I replied. "Let's give her the weekend." "You're cruel, you know that?" "Only as cruel as I need to be." Saturday morning, Ashley floated an idea. "Maybe we should take a trip. Just the two of us." I smiled. "Great idea. Why don't you plan it?" Her eyes lit up, relief flooding her face. "Really?" "Of course," I said. "We could both use a change of scenery." What she didn't know was that I'd already booked a different trip. Just for me. Different state. Different life. That night, while she sat cross-legged on the bed scrolling through resorts on her phone, I opened the laptop in the living room. Sent one clean email to my lawyer with the entire evidence folder attached. Subject line, Showtime. The reply came within an hour. "Consider it done. Papers will be ready Monday." On Sunday, I played the role of doting husband. Made breakfast. Watched her favorite show with her. Even suggested we start fresh. She glowed, certain she was winning me back. She had no idea that while we were watching Netflix, the lawyer had filed the papers and frozen the last of our joint accounts. That night, as she drifted off to sleep beside me, I whispered, "Sweet dreams, Ash." And for the first time in months, I actually meant it. Monday morning, I let her go first. She left the house in her best blazer, blowing me a kiss like the queen of suburbia. 10 minutes later, I followed. Not to work. To the lawyer's office. By noon, the papers were signed, notarized, and filed. By 2 p.m., the locks on the house were changed. At 4 p.m., Ashley came home to find the key in her hand no longer worked. She pounded on the door, furious. I opened it slowly, calm as ever. "What's going on?" she snapped. I smiled. "Oh, Ash, you didn't check your email?" Her face paled. "Email? Papers should have hit your inbox an hour ago. Don't worry, they're very thorough." She shoved past me, storming into the kitchen. "You can't just—" I slid an envelope across the counter. Inside, printouts of her texts, receipts, and a glossy photo from the restaurant. Her Chase, laughing with someone younger. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. You were spying on me?" I shook my head. "No, I was listening. You made it easy." She sank into a chair, stunned. "You'll ruin me." I leaned down, meeting her eyes. "Ashley, you did that yourself. I'm just giving you the curtain call. You'd think that was the end of it. The dramatic reveal, the papers, the shattered mask. But the real twist came after. Because Ashley expected rage. She expected me to scream, to cry, to beg. She wanted the messy breakup story she could feed to her friends. How her poor, unstable husband lost his mind. Instead, I gave her something worse. Nothing. I packed a single suitcase, walked past her, and left the house I now fully owned. Not a slammed door, not a raised voice. Just silence. She chased me to the driveway, voice cracking. "Logan, wait." I paused at the car door, looking at her one last time. She was shaking, eyes wide, makeup smudged. "You don't get it, do you?" I said softly. "Get what?" she whispered. I smiled. "You were never ahead. Not once." Then I got in the car and drove off. 3 weeks later, Aaron sent me a photo he'd found online. Ashley and Chase, what was left of them, sitting across from each other at a coffee shop. No laughter, no glow. Just two people staring at their phones, pretending they hadn't already lost. I chuckled, slid the photo into a drawer, and poured myself a drink. Revenge doesn't always need fire. Sometimes it's colder than ice. And the best part? They never see it coming.